Beautiful humans, happy Monday. Today I'm here with one of my two favorite humans, other than my partner and my kids, John and Massimo. Great to have you both. So, as Connected Impact has been growing over the really last month since the beginning of the year, it's become more and more clear that we're becoming this community of people who are building six and seven figure businesses, while really deepening the love and commitment in our intimate partnerships. And so Massimo is the man with whom I'm running the men's group that we're having every Monday evening. And then with John, actually since really 2019, we've been on this journey of figuring out like, how do we come together as conscious business owners, supporting ourselves in this journey of building something that's really solidly heart aligned. And to give you a bit more context on John, he's been working in the digital marketing space for like over 20 years. And what excites me about him is really that connection of spirituality and marketing, and really coming from a place of, what is true to your heart. And one of the conversations, John, that really stuck with me was when we were speaking about your dad and him having kind of left the best things of his life kind of like inside you before he died. And that thing of like, man, like what's the best stuff I have that I need to bring out so that I can really give my gift. And it's been really an honor, man, to be building the Mastermind together with you. And so today, for all of you joining in, it's more kind of like business focused. So while we had in the last few weeks more kind of like on the relationship front, it's moving a bit more into the business front at the moment. And so today we're really looking at, okay, how can we do good and really run a business for self-actualization and becoming deeply prosperous. So John, you running a 6-figure company. It is kind of very exciting to have you enlighten us about kind of the models that you're bringing to the world, and also the Thursday sessions that are becoming available. So with that, my man, I would love for you to bring a little bit more context to doing good and making money, where it comes from, and like what's your journey been into that space.
Amazing. Well, thanks, Toby. And I mean, it's amazing, going on this journey with you. I remember, meeting those early days, your first men's group, and you just always impressed me with your insight and your compassion, and and I really appreciate people that have mad tech skills, but also on this spiritual journey. And I find it's that hybrid that that really fascinates me. Those when you have two different worldviews coming together, like really magic can kind of happen at the intersection. And our journey was at the time we were both reclaiming our masculinity. And I think, Massimo, you and I still need to have a lot of conversation about that, because
we will have plenty.
Amazing. I'll bring that back into the kind of the spiritual business thing as well, because like having those two different worldviews, that's something that I really resonated with myself, because I feel like in my life I've been walking two different paths. There's the two different lives I've been living. One is money, digital, business. Right, so money, tech, business, like that whole worldview. I run a business, do digital marketing stuff. On the other side has been my spiritual life and my spiritual practice. And especially recently, those two worldviews have started to collapse. Right, those two things have started to synergize into, the business sense questions like, who's your target market, started to synergize with the spiritual sense of whom I'm here to serve. Questions around business, like what is my unique value proposition, was kind of made connected up with the spiritual questions about what are my unique gifts. And as those two things started to synergize, for me, it feels like those two parts of myself started to come together, and some really exciting sort of things are happening. And I've always wanted to create a business that harmonizes both of those things. The spiritual imperative for me is that the universe wants us to be abundant, right? Like, and if in our businesses we can create abundance for ourselves and others, we're in a space where we can help a lot more people. And growing up in South Africa, and Massimo will probably know this too, like the spiritual scene is a lot more mainstream there than it is here. So there's a lot of, I was learning about tarot cards and watching The Secret and the Law of Manifestation from, late teens, right from high school. I already learned about this visualization and manifestation. But, and I learned, meditating, and for a long time I was, doing all the spiritual stuff, but I was still broke. And I was learning a lot of other things from really cool spiritual people. They didn't have money either. It kind of bothered me, like, how do we synergize these two worlds? And I came across a couple of different worldviews where, there's a crowd called the Ramtha School of Enlightenment, and they've got these sort of whole bunch of different courses. But like the first course on the spiritual path is make lots of money. And then all the subsequent courses are like crazy expensive. Right? And people coming from the outside are going like, why are these courses so expensive? And they're like, no. Finish lesson 1. They're designed to be expensive because if you haven't mastered lesson 1, it's going to seem expensive because you haven't. And I've never did any of the courses, but it kind of sat with me. You're like, how do we actually, solve this money game so that we can interact with each other from abundance? And what's emerged for me is this framework, this philosophy, which I just call do good, make money. Right? And implementing this year was the first time I broke through £100,000 turnover a year. So it's like 6 figures, but only just. So good marketing speak, but that's the reality. Just over £100,000 this tax year, and just implementing some of these philosophies. I wanted to kind of open source that and say, how do we have this happen more predictably and more often? And specifically, the people that I want to help. If I look at my journey, there's been coaches, healers, teachers that have appeared at critical parts in my journey that have helped me jump up to the next level. And part of the framework that I want to share with you guys is that, this is how I see it, it's like when you jump up a level, you have the ability to turn around and help other people who are on a similar path jump up a level too. And to the extent that we're all doing this, we can raise the whole game for everybody. Right, so that's kind of what it's like. Do good, make money. It's not two separate things. It's one sentence. It's one thing. But it shouldn't be two separate things. And I think that's one of the key insights is that, doing good and making money are not two separate things. But when we start to put them as one thing together, it starts to become, something quite exciting. Once you stop trying to see it as two different things, but as one thing, one mission. Like we're on the planet to achieve something, right? And once you start tapping into that, I'm going to have you consider that what that something is to help people go through your journey, but faster. Okay, so Toby was kind of alluding a bit to a little bit of my journey, and one of the kind of formative moments in this whole journey was when my father died. So this was August 2019. And my father was a beautiful man, a brilliant man, gifted musician, gifted writer, gifted painter, broke. Okay, didn't pass, and he was like really good at starting things, but he didn't have his financial game down. And for a long time, I had this judgment of like, well, as a man, you should have your money shit together. Come on. And that judgment actually drove a lot of my quest, my journey, my kind of exploration. But he got Parkinson's and then Lewy body dementia. So he started this long, sort of slow decline. And it was really interesting to see how his greatest asset, ultimately, as his life declined, was actually the relationships that he built and the people that gathered around him to support him. And it completely helped me, forced me to rethink, like, what's actually important. And it was only kind of in reconstructing, after he passed away, going through his stuff, we kind of reconstructed the last few years of his life. And it turned out that, I had this judgment about him not finishing things. Okay? But it turned out that in the last kind of few years of his life, after he got the diagnosis, he put together 2 of the most exquisite albums of music I've ever heard in my life. right? But he only started them after he got the diagnosis. Like he knew he would ultimately never finish this. Like he knew it would never be a success. And it was never going to achieve commercial success. But he was like, I'm going to finish this damn thing. And literally, the first album was created, published, like it's there. You can see it. And the second one, he got the music down, but didn't get the album cover and all that stuff. But the music was down. And we played some of it at his funeral, and I was just looking at the stuff and like, oh my God, like, I mean, imagine that courage of going like, that's it. Like, there's no cure for this thing. I'm on my way out. But like, I'm not going to die with this stuff inside me. I'm going to get it out. And all the experiences that had led to his life, his formative experiences, culminated in this incredible music. It was just like, wow, it's super crazy. So kind of that was one of the sort of formative experiences in this model of the do good, make money, because it turns out that most of this, the gifts that we get from facing trauma. Okay, bad shit happens to you. And if it doesn't break you, you learn stuff. Okay, and especially if you bring the spiritual thing into this, nature is just this anti-fragile. Something happens to a system, an organism, it over recovers. Okay. And it's the same thing that happens to us as resilient humans. Bad stuff happens to us, and we over recover, right? Which allows us the ability to help other people who've experienced a similar trauma get through it faster. Now you start doing that. Now to me, that's the beginnings of, if that's going to be the beginnings of an input into some kind of a business process, right? Turns out that trauma and entrepreneurship are highly correlated. Like I used to think as a business owner, I'm like, oh no, I need to hide all of my imperfections. I need to create this persona that like I've got all of it all figured out. And if you come and go through my magic process, then you'll have it all figured out too. And it turns out, since I started talking about some of the, like the screw ups, and especially like early childhood stuff, most entrepreneurs have that stuff. It's part of the reason they become entrepreneurs, is because that early trauma, those early blows cause us to over recover. We develop this crazy resilience, which is one of the things you need if you're going to create a business. Is you need to be able to be crazy self-reliant. Your parents won't understand you, your friends won't understand you. You're going to have a lot of uncertainty, a lot of near misses in order to bring the business into life. And if you haven't had the internal mechanics to be able to go through that, it's not going to work. So, if we can formulate this, like how about if we could just structure this around that people are trying to do this anyway. And if I look at the coaches, I look at people that I call life bringers, which are my target market, the people I put on this earth to serve. That's pretty much the story. Go into the story, and it's like they're on a life trajectory. Something happens, normally a trauma of some kind, that causes them to wake up and reevaluate. You go, you know what? Based on this, I'm going to do something else. I want to heal. I want to step up. I want to make a contribution. And then there's this stuff that we need to, this bridge, or this river that we need to cross to go from, hey, I've got a good idea, I want to help, to I have a business doing that. It sustains me, and then go to the next level. And it's that river that I want to help people cross. This mission that I'm on called weaponizing the light bringers. Okay, if you're waking up and you're on this mission to go and help people, then I want to try and help people navigate that chaos as much as possible, and just realize first and foremost that trauma is your superpower. On the other side of that is one of the things that you need to positions you to be able to be of service. Just looking at Rob's comment here, 1970s. Let's swim in the chaos and embrace the fact that we will never know what happens next. 100%.
So for me, it's very illuminating. Your reflection there about everything that you're talking about, because it kind of brings me back to my first year, of university, where I remember we had a family therapy model, and we had to sort of analyze our family. I'll never forget this exam that we were in, and it was this little aha moment that came in for me that said, the reason you are becoming a therapist is to fix your family. And not that that helped at all. Not that I would suggest that to anybody, so just stepping into that space to try and fix your family. But what was really interesting was that I developed a skill set to help and serve other people. And your piece on resilience as well, it's fascinating to see how that trauma really does build resilience, and you can really start applying that to the servingness of the work that we sort of step into. And that's always been something that I think has really ensured my progression in the space.
I feel there's always like a light and a dark side to sort of like the whole entrepreneurship and trauma thing. Because on the one hand, I look at it, it's like, yeah, you experience trauma, and instead of changing yourself, you start changing everything in your world in order to feel kind of like, cool, I'm safe. Or then there's this component of like, yes, you continuously just like only change yourself, but then still live sort of like in outer chaos. And so I guess where I'm arriving now with this sort of like, yeah, cool, we ultimately all experience trauma. And I guess if we just like recognize sort of like the suffering, and yeah, with that also like having a level of like emotional availability, I feel it actually changes the dynamics of business, because it's no longer just like about, okay, let's transact, let's sell some like good product or service, but it's about like, okay, I recognize you as a human being in like everything that you are. And then it becomes, yes, we can still trade products and services, but it also becomes a lot more transformational, where actually, and that's why I actually really love working with the two of you, because it feels like, yes, there is love, and there is like, we're growing together, and we're like, hey, like, how is life? It's not just like, okay, like, what is the specific part of business, but it's actually, how are your kids doing, or how is your partner? Like, what about the holiday? It's really, it's so much more
humane.
Fulfilling. Yeah, it feels there's much more like a friendship, and you're like, yes, it's just a transact for the money. And I think, John, with that, maybe going a bit more into, so also, by the way, if any of you who are listening have questions, submit them either like in the chat on the side or like in the question box in the bottom, and we'll get to them as well. So, but yeah, John, the whole like trauma piece, because it's like, yes, we can experience trauma, and then you either get stuck, or you transform it into like a higher awakening. And I mean, then you experience more trauma, or you go deeper under this shit that you experience, and have another cycle of healing. And I think you have this like awesome model, the collapse into light, if you want to talk this through a bit more.
Yeah, sure. So here's the, so it's kind of fractal. So here's the thing. So let's map out the journey. So you kind of, here's the, John the entrepreneur wakes up and goes, hey, I've experienced this trauma. I've learned to metabolize this. I've learned some skill, and now I want to go and create a business. Now, the business, creating a business itself, is fraught with triggers too. Okay. Right. And there's so many different things. The skill set that you need to master in order to bring a business into life is going to push a whole bunch of buttons as well. Where, through each stage, I felt like there's clients don't pay, HMRC tax payments are late, can't pay the rent, can't go out for your friend's birthday party or something like that, because you got to it's just, the pressure is intense. So kind of let's map this out. And I had this is great quote from Jeff Bezos, and it says, and it's the most simple, cohesive explanation of business that I can think about as a great departure point. He says, if you've got a 10% chance of getting 100 times return on a given investment, okay, should you take that bet? Yeah, you've got a 1 in 10 chance of making 100 times your money back. Should you take the bet? Yeah. Now, mathematically, the answer is yes. Of course you should, every single time. 10% chance, 100 times return. Okay, cool. I mean, it makes logical sense, right? But practically, you're still going to be wrong 9 times out of 10. Okay, right. And this is what business is. creating a business, like there is literally no upside. There's no upper limit to the amount of money you can create. Like every time there's a practical limit, someone else is breaking it, right? So there's no practical limit, right? So you can make $1 million, you make $10 million, you make $1 trillion, right? But you're still going to be wrong 9 times out of 10. Okay. All right. And everyone else watching you who really thinks that they have their best interests at heart, your mother, your partner, your parents, are going to be looking at you hitting wrong, wrong, wrong. You know it. You can see the maths, right? But everyone else is around you is going, you missed, you missed, you missed. And then when the big win comes up, it's completely non-linear. Right. So this is the game of business, and it's going to push all your buttons as well. So what I want to do is try and map out, codify all the elements of the business so that you can move through that process as much as possible. And notice that this is going to be triggering, and that's an opportunity too. Okay? Because, triggers, trauma, great content. Okay, right? You metabolize that on the other side. That journey is some of the best marketing content you're ever going to create. Because here's the thing: is that I think here's my belief is that what we're trying to do here as conscious business owners is enable expansion. Right? In the same way as like, here I am, I'm here, I want to be here. Okay, and on the journey, what I'm going to encounter is opportunities disguised as problems. I'm going to move forward, I'm going to encounter an obstacle. When I metabolize that and see the unexpected benefit, right, I'm able to take the darkness, go into the darkness, identify the shitty story I'm telling, tell a better story, embrace the new reality, move forward. That process is what growth is. And now you can turn around and say, hey, this is what's just happened to me. And you can shine a light for the other people that follow. So this is it's the eternal expansion game. And you can play this game as long as you want. There is literally no upside. There's no upper limit to this game. Because, hey, I've reached enlightenment. And guess what's going to happen the next day? You're going to, more light means more perspective, which means greater capacity for triggers. So if you have to think this from a practical point of view, in terms of the money game, right? How do we actually take this thing that I've done and how do I charge money for this thing that we're doing? Because I found working with coaches and working with practitioners, like the spiritual stuff's all handled, but how do you take this thing and turn it into something we can charge money for? Is one of the things of 3 summits of this process I've created called the Conscious Business Accelerator System. Right? So philosophy is do good, make money, but the 3 sort of summits, the 3 key obstacles to overcome, and the 3 trophies you can earn on this journey is one, firstly, mastery of money. And I believe, and I'm going to, from the business perspective, to me, that's your ticket to the game, right? If you're not making enough money, almost nothing else matters, right? So, let's just go straight into that. Mastery of money. Secondly is time, which comes down to your systems. And how do we put systems and processes in place so that once you crack the money game, you're able to put systems and processes in place that allow those things to happen, that cause money to happen in such a way that you don't always have to spend your time and energy doing that yourself. And then the third summit is influence. Once you have those systems in place, how do we connect with more and more greater communities that contain the people that we want to help? Right. So those are the 3 summits. So if you zoom all the way back down into money, and maybe it will be useful if I share this diagram, you can follow along with the journey.
Absolutely, bring it in.
Amazing. Let's go here.
Meanwhile, you put this up, a short reflection on this whole piece around triggers as opportunities. Because in a way, especially for everyone who's sort of on that path of being in the coaching industry, at that point, you're basically on your own healing journey. And then I really see business as this beautiful vehicle for self-actualization. Yes, on the one hand, you're going through and supporting others in a transformation, but it's also like, yeah, man, keep triggering me so that I can actually heal further and further and further. And yeah, man, I really think it's really beautiful seeing triggers as opportunities and something to lean into rather than the thing to be like, oh no, I need to now be safe.
I think it's just also a side comment to that. It's, John, what you're saying about, everyone will see the 9 out of 10 rather than the 10% moment, right? And that resonates a lot with me, because it's interesting how, everyone who has your best interest at heart don't want to see you suffer fundamentally. And, most of the responses are like, I don't want to see you suffer, but they've seen that 9 out of 10. But when the moment hits that literally the 10% kicks in, all of a sudden it shifts into, now you have all the biggest supporters that are around you as well.
Yeah.
So I think
so. I knew it was going to work.
But I think there also needs to be some sort of re-education of the people around us as well, to sort of be mindful of that.
Yeah, and I think to the extent that 100%. I mean, I think hopefully I'm able to some way contribute to that, to be able to say, okay, now here's the journey. To be able to say to your friends, family, whatever, here's the journey that I'm on, and point to a place that you're on and say, okay, this is the journey, this is where I'm at, and hopefully, because I mean, this is the product of my 20 years of banging my head against all sorts of business stuff to find out what would, when it worked, what actually happened, and remove all the unnecessary complication to see, because I mean, I've done. Worked with more than 450 different businesses of doing all kinds of weird different things with all sorts of different budgets and combinations of things. And let me tell you, like most people don't, behind the scenes, the things that work, like sometimes completely surprising. But that's a story for another day. But I think, if you're getting started out,
John, just so the screen share, you can only see the basically the crowdcast screen, so I can't see the image.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good tech support there. Let's just see. That's one of the things that I have learned. Click here, close message, John. All right, let's see what's happening. Is stop sharing? And share screen. I can tell this. There we go.
I think maybe the other component as well, when you were speaking about the 3 horizons of like money, time, and influence, is that it's ultimately, firstly, the transition away from, kind of like survival and scarcity.
Yeah.
And that's when you were saying, without money, basically nothing else matters. All right, man. Yeah, that works. Pictures
cool.
here.
Amazing.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, and I think, that money thing, if you had to draw a line here, like that line is, because I found, all the goal setting, all the mindset stuff, all of those sort of things, I can think positive, but like, if there's not enough money to pay the rent, it's very hard to maintain that higher vibration. So which is why I put money at the bottom, to be like, okay, let's just confront that head on. Like, before we do all the elaborate goal setting and all of that sort of stuff, like, just learn how to make money, like pay the rent, have some spare money, and then you're in the space to be able to do the more kind of elaborate goal setting. But try and do that in such a way that it gets better all the time. So I'm going to share with you guys some of the model, but it's pretty dense. There's quite a lot of information, and this is why over the next 9 weeks I'm going to be doing a series of free trainings where I'm going to go deeper into each one of these components, really just to dig a lot deeper into this. So if there's any questions about this, please, I want this to be as practical as possible. So ask any questions you want, but also just to let you know, I'm going to be building more on this because it really is my mission to weaponize the life bringers, right? So to get, if you guys are on a conscious path in business, I want to help you go faster. So in terms of, how do we smash through these 3 summits? So the first, in terms of horizon, the first, like summit number 1, the whole thing, the entire business empire is built on this thing called your ideal client, right? Like, who are you here to serve? I'm getting clear on that. And the thing is, you don't need to be clear to start. You just need to have a guess. Because, the whole, if you simplify it all down, making money is having conversations with people that have problems and money, and then helping them get from where they are to where they want to be. Right? So, like, you don't have to, like, having your offer, and that's why it's called sharpen your offer, not finish your offer, right? Not finalize the entire business before you get started, but just think about where you're at and what you're going to do for money, and just sharpen it up a little bit. Right? And there's 5 kind of dials on this sharpening thing. Right? The one is your ideal client. Right? Just get a little bit clear about who your ideal client is, because the whole money thing is all about perception. Right? Like, why is diamonds more valuable than plastic? Okay? Like, I don't know, but because people think it is. People believe it is. Like, why did Bitcoin lose and Coinbase lose 85% of its value in the last couple of weeks? Right? Just because people didn't believe it was worth that much. It really is. It's about perception. And your ideal client is one of those values, those leaders in this. So I'll do a quick thought experiment for you. Like, let's just do, if I had to say I have a course on time management, okay, how much do you think it is? You don't have to answer the question, but just think, like, how much do you think my course costs? Just let a number come to mind. Right. Now, if I say I have a time management course for busy professionals, did the number go up or down?
Up, naturally.
It went up. Okay. Now, the course hasn't changed. It's an imaginary course, right? There's nothing exists. But you notice what happened in your mind, the perceived value. Right. So this is how we start to take your gift, whatever that is, because I know that you've got a gift inside you because you're still alive. And if you're alive, you've been through some stuff. If you've been through some stuff, you've learned how to go through stuff. Right. So what I wanted to unleash is, how do we turn that into a business? And the first thing to do is increase how much you charge. And it's just about increasing the value and charging what you're worth. So that's the first transformation in terms of your offer, is just starting to move from charging what you can to charging what you're worth. And that's the first lever, is your ideal client, and just be choosing who you're working with. Right? So if I say I'm a digital marketer, I get to charge one rate. If I say I'm a digital marketer specializing in lead generation, I get to charge more. If I say I'm a digital marketer specializing in lead generation for high-value business-to-business software and service companies, it lights up even more. If I say I'm an NLP coach, you get to charge one number. If you say I'm an NLP coach that specializes in relationships, if I say I'm an NLP coach that specializes in software CEOs that have relationship problems, right? Super niche. Yeah. And so that's just, it's one of the levers, and just start to thinking about who it is that we're wanting to serve. And I mean, if you've been alive on Earth for more than 5 minutes, you've probably heard somebody say the riches is in the niches, and choose your niche. And it took me, I don't know, 19 years before it finally like hit home. Like, what the point of that is that you don't have to. It's that the whole business, everything that else comes after this, your offer, your outreach, your communication, all of that stuff, the thing that you do for money exists for one purpose and one purpose only. It's to help people you care about get from where they are to where they want to be. You're building a bridge, you're building a methodology, you're building resources and assets to help those people move from where they are to where they want to be. And the more clear you are about who you're helping, the quicker and easier it is to build a bridge. Once you've built a bridge, you're free to build another bridge and another bridge and another bridge. But the mission here at the moment is the first route to, let's call this £5,000 a month. Right? Once you're earning £5,000 a month, you can then go and say, cool, you can start to be a little bit more speculative. But the fastest route to get across the first bridge, which is scarcity, and master this money thing, is just pick a group of people that have problems and money, talk to them about where they are to where they want to be, ask them what kind of help they want, and then arrange your gifts and present them in such a way that it helps them. Okay. Cool. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think a big thing that you're highlighting in this whole thing, especially from charge what you can to charge what you're worth, I think it has so much to do with actually that inner spiritual work of like feeling enough and feeling worthy, and then really the sharpening of the offer. And I think that was beautiful because you said it's not like you need to make the most sharp or the final offer, but it's like 1% better than what you had just had. And so, I mean, reflecting on sort of my own business journey in a sense, it's like, it's this whole like flip-flop thing. Yeah, sharpen the offer, feel a little bit more like worthy, sharpen the offer again. And it's like, it's a seesawing kind of like up. And it feels like really strenuous at times because it does definitely trigger these inner fears of like, why am I really worth it much? Can I really serve these people? And I feel that's where I personally find being part of the mastermind and checking in on a weekly basis is actually like really good to see other people on their journey as well. And really, I think, yeah, man, like everybody goes through their like own sort of like, ups and downs. And it's really beautiful to be in that space of, mutual encouragement in a sense.
Yeah. And I think, that's in talking about triggers and in that space, is that like that right at the beginning of the journey is one of the biggest triggers, right? It's like, stop. There's the transition from moving from I want to help everybody, because we think we want to help everybody, because surely if I help everybody, you end up making more money, right? Because there's more people. But
doesn't work like that.
Whereas it's very difficult to help everybody. It's very difficult to help everybody, and it's kind of working in the mastermind where we're every Tuesday we're going through and going, what is my purpose? Who am I here to serve? Who am I? What do I want? Who do I serve? And watching people week on week getting clearer and clearer and clearer on that. And watching the marketing and watching them start to land clients that are closer and closer to these dream clients and getting deeper and deeper into that. You start to go, hey, hang about. I mean, just consider this for a moment, right? Consider if your business consisted only of people you like to hang out with. Like, you only work with clients that you actually like. How cool would that be if if we start working with businesses that you started working with only people that you actually like to hang out with? I mean, I definitely didn't run my business like that for a long time. Probably way too long. And I think, meeting Toby was one of those things. It was like, no, like, let's just hang out with people we want to hang out with. I was like, hey, and it turns out that, when you start to look at the number, because it seems like the monkey brain says, surely if I work with everybody, then I'll make more money, right? But remember when I looked at that maths to say, if you do the maths, most coach practitioner types like myself, we max out at about 10 people. Like, you can only work with about 10 people at a time, maybe 20. Maybe you've got a group program, maybe it's 100 or a couple of hundred. Yeah. So that's not the game, is to help everybody. It's to be a potent weapon for a group of people that you can help like nobody else can. And so for myself, I use LinkedIn as one of my favorite digital marketing tool at the moment. If I narrow down to coaches in the conscious space, my current addressable market, if I'm super, super, super focused, is 148,000 people. 148,000 people is way more than I'll ever need to run a business in. So if you build an entire business in that space, like, I'll get to hang out with like other people. So I'm getting into the detail in here. So I mean, I'm just going to put this out to anyone listening. Does anyone else have any questions about how to this ideal client thing, and about the transition from moving into a specific group of people that you want to serve?
I think I can make a comment on the importance of that mastermind group, because I think what's potentially going to come up with a lot of people is this ego conflict with almost like how would I describe it? A bit of an imposter syndrome that comes up when we sort of try and level up into these different, higher echelons, if you want to call it like that. And I think this is where, the mastermind that you're putting together and have been running for a while is super important to be able to sort of chisel out that ego voice that does come in there. Because, even on that journey alone, most people will probably respond and look at this and go, well, I can do this on my own. And this is a default setting that I think most of us will find some degree of failure, or a large degree of failure, when we kind of go, this is just a journey that I have to do on my own. That was a big lesson for myself, and actually sort of stepping out of that space and actually going, shit, you know what? This is not just about me. It's about connecting and actually being vulnerable enough in a space like that where people can point out your fallibilities. And once again, challenge that ego to help you step up into a different sort of plateau place.
Yeah, because here's the thing: is you can't see, and I encounter this problem so often, is that like when you're working as a practitioner, you tend to see the problem, you tend to look for the root cause, and we tend to go really deep into our own world and into our own thing. But being able to have people around you that can see that can see where you are from an external perspective and give you that context, absolutely invaluable. So I'm going to share with you guys
It's also
one more.
No, I just wanted to say, so next week we'll have Brandon Fong, who was part of Genius Network early on, and I mean that's one of the big things that they always talk about. Like everybody kind of sits in their own glass jar, and you can't read the label from the inside. So you need people that reflect basically from the outside, like this is what I see in you. And I think bringing this into a bigger context of life, I mean that's also where I realized that's one of the beautiful things of actually being in a relationship with a romantic partner. It's like there's like continuous feedback, whether you like it or not, it's either loving or harsh, but it is feedback. And I think in sort of a business context, at least that was my experience in the beginning, it's like, if I don't get perspective, then I don't get hurt. Or it doesn't really point out where I'm potentially going wrong, but then also are things actually progressing in terms of tangible results as I desire? And I mean, the answer is no. I think we do need feedback, and it's sometimes not feeling most exciting or most pleasant. But I think that's at least always for me when growth arises. Just look, John, we have a question. So Hannah was asking, do you have any real world recommendations for people looking to set up their own mastermind? Yeah,
I mean, I would say, and I'll talk about one more element of this because it really fits in there. Is that once you think about your ideal client, the next thing to think about is their dream outcome. Okay, of these people that you want to serve, where do they want to go? And everything else about this whole process is about building a bridge for those people. You can see I've done this many, many, many times with different people, is that once you delve into your ideal client, where they are and what their ideal outcome is, where are they trying to go? What is their journey? And then in conversation with them, start to figure out what are the obstacles that they're encountering. And as you find the obstacles that they're encountering, you can start to assemble resources and you can start to assemble solutions, whether it be people, whether it be courses, whether it be contacts, whether it be software, whether it be tools, whatever the case might be, around that. And that to me is, that's what a great business is. This is a mechanism that helps people go from here to there. But that's also what a great product is. And to be a mastermind is a manifestation of that. So, if we were going to start, like our mastermind is a collection of people that want to go to their first £100,000 as a business and beyond, as a coaching business and beyond. So that's the theme of our mastermind. All the resources in the mastermind are assembled around that, and those are the people that we invite to participate. So, practically, if we're going to connect the mastermind, I would think, who is the community that you want to serve, and what is the journey that they're on that you're wanting to facilitate, and what are the resources that you can start to assemble in the mastermind. And one of the great transformations when you look at the community and what you look at the frameworks for kind of planetary impact, you start off with working with your 5 to 10 people, right? But and really understand the transformation for a small group of people. But once you start to see the patterns within that, you can then start to expand that. And one of the key things, as humans, we all want a sense of belonging. Right. And if you think about, as a business owner, generally it's a pretty lonely existence. If you're a business owner on a spiritual path, there's even less people that you can talk to about this, which is why we created the mastermind, to be like, okay, let's just be whatever. What if that was all that there was? Like, we're all spiritual business owners on a mission. So that's the frame I would consider, for your mastermind, is that have you considered that there's a group of people out there that you were built to serve, that are looking for a sense of community. They want to hang out with each other. So practically, I would start off with, you just need one person to get started. Like, who is the person that wants you in your mastermind? And then, that person from there, you can say, who else needs to be here? Get curious about their community. Get curious about where you found that person, because from there you can be able to often extrapolate where you can find other people that match that, and just listen, just be of service. And if you're super specific, that's and practically, if you say, hey, I want to create a mastermind, it's like, when I did that, I was like, people don't have time. But when I say I'm creating a mastermind of people that are on a spiritual business quest, and I've created resources to help us together get to this first £100,000, $100,000, people were able to contextualize that a lot faster and say, this is a very specific group of people on a specific quest. It sounds like these are my people, and that's often what gets the yes. And then if you're curious about your people, listen to what they want, bring those resources together into the mastermind, and then start to communicate to people in that space that the place exists. So that's what puts that feedback loop in place. So Hannah, hopefully that answered your question.
And I'll add a few more sort of like practical things as well. A few considerations is like, do you want to make it paid or unpaid? Is it in person or is it online, or maybe like a hybrid thing? And also, I think what's super important is cadence. Find one day a week, specific time a week, and just do it every single week. It basically needs to train people's nervous systems to just get into the rhythm, because it's then basically being in rhythm with the group as well. And so you're giving people really structure for their life with that. And what John was highlighting is focus. Focus on something that actually you want to transform in your own life, or a journey that you're on already anyway, so that you can sustain doing it. There's nothing worse than kind of just doing a mastermind for, if you say you want to do a paid mastermind, finding a topic that seems like lucrative, but ultimately it doesn't speak to your heart. So find something that really resonates with who you are. And then I think the other piece around there as well is, do you want to use your mastermind strategically to connect with people that you admire, or do you want to have it more as a place for people who are very much on the same level as you are? So there's like two different ways you could approach that. And with that also, like, how do you fill it? Like, where do you find the people? Are you creating a movement around your mastermind, or is the mastermind really primarily for you to just serve you in this specific transformation that you're looking to create right now, and creating a container to have others do the same? So if you want to talk more, I'm happy to link up more one-on-one if you want. So I mean, John, we're also coming towards the end of our hour. So if you want to leave us with some wisdom, that'd be amazing, man.
I don't know about that. But what I will say is that hopefully I've just dived into a little bit of the key message I could share is that, you have something inside you that you have yet to give. And I invite you to consider that the purpose of your life and the key to your abundance, right, is to give that gift, right? You have light inside you, and I encourage you to just spend it all, right? Just get it out there, because in that you engage the flow. Yeah, I mean, you can create something that enables a transformation inside people that's worth more than you charge for it. It's your duty to be abundant. Because guess what? You start to get those higher levels of income. Like, you don't spend it all on yourself. Like, there's a certain amount of money that you can spend on yourself, and after that, it's just about going, okay, who else can we enable? How do we start directing that? The whole purpose of abundance is not to make a big money house. Right, it's about to get, how to start flowing with those things. And really exciting. I mean, I've got a staff of 2 people, like, yay, right? But it's like my own little kingdom, but I can create the job I always wish I had, right? And it gets really exciting at those next level. I mean, and to me, that's exciting about building those things, about being able to, create those environments, and create the prosperity, create the world that you want to see. So all of those things I kind of heard theoretically, but it's like, okay, let's practically get this done. So I put a link in the chat about, it's just, I want to build more on these practical elements, like practically how do you actually create an offer, create a thing that you can talk to people about and show them what you do in such a way that people will give you money for this. How do you actually go and find those people? How do you structure a sales call? How do you find people on LinkedIn? How do you connect to people? How do you build all of that stuff? Because a little hassle factor as possible. Just really solid practical stuff, but spiritually aligned on these fundamental principles. But I really just want to simplify the hell out of it. Be like, okay, what are the practical elements of doing? How do we take this cool thing that I want to do? How do I connect to those things inside me and build a business that pays the rent for yourself and then starts to pay the rent for other people, right? And starts to start to create some change. Because you know what, when we start giving the gifts inside us, we unlock gifts inside other people. And like, what does the world look like when that becomes the basis of the economy?
We relate to the world far differently from a position of abundance. I was chatting to Toby earlier today, and I've come back from a motorbike trip, and I was saying to him, I use the analogy of when you look at a full tank of petrol, you usually have a sense of freedom and liberation that comes with that. So I like sort of half tank to full tank. I don't ever like half tank to empty tank, because that in itself sort of triggers some kind of, when do I have to fill up next? When is that sort of anxiousness going to sort of step in and tell me that I can't go any further? And John, I think the little that I know from you and the much more that I'm going to learn from you, I think, dude, you just scratched the surface today. I don't even think that was sort of 1% of the knowledge and expertise that you can bring to the table. So would highly suggest everyone to follow John and look at what you're doing, dude. And even better, come to the Mastermind group.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks so much. First of all, it's such a privilege just to be with you guys and to be on this journey with you guys. And I'm just excited about what we're going to create and the people that we're going to meet. And and I mean, look back at like what's the journey, Toby, like since we started, how far we've come. And I feel like we're just getting started. So.
I mean, I think that's also where I really just want to say, when you're speaking towards the end, it's really about that embodiment. Because yes, we can understand a lot of things sort of conceptually and intellectually. But then are we actually embodying it? Are our cells speaking with that same vibration? And I think that's really also what Dominic Knight said in probably like 10 conversations in the past or something. He was speaking about this whole idea of osmosis. And I feel that is really, for me, one of the big benefits of being part of a community of aligned people, whether that's like a loose community or more structured like a mastermind or something. Where it's like you are around people that do the same thing, which makes you fucking believe that you can do it. Because you see other people doing it that are no fucking different than you. And I feel that for me is where it becomes really, really exciting. So for any of you who are listening right now, so John is on Thursdays now for the next few weeks teaching these frameworks on these 9 different summits. So if you want to be engaged with that, click here, join the community button underneath, and then we'll get you hooked up with all that. John, my man, it's been amazing to have you, brother. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks, guys. Thanks
spending the hour
everyone.
with us.
Thanks, Massimo. Thanks, Toby. Thanks everyone for your questions, and we'll see you on the beaches of the world.
Amazing.
You're
Next week with our good man Brandon Fong giving us insight into Genius Network. Alrighty. Lots of love.
Fantastic. Thanks everyone.
See you. Bye-bye.